Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everybody. Jackie Woodside here again with another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we seek to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Today, I'm so excited to bring forth a just incredibly wise, critical thinker, sophisticated professional with a long, successful history of being in the space of finance and thought leadership and coaching, a published author, and just an extraordinary teacher that I've really enjoyed getting to know. Richard Friesen is with us today, and we're going to be diving into his view from his perspective of what it means to live consciously and what's happening in our world today in that topic. So, Richard, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for being with me today.
I've been so looking forward to today, and I know that we just had a little bit of a warm-up, and you opened some doors for some really interesting, forward-thinking ways of looking at the world and invitations to maybe expand our conscious living. So my appreciations.
Perfect. I'm really looking forward to this. So you wrote a book called A Private Conversation with Money, which is an extraordinary, you have a book and a program around it. But just before we dive into our thoughts about conscious living, just let our listeners learn a little bit more about you and how you've come to where you are.
Yeah, I started out as a broker at Merrill Lynch, and then got invited to trade on the floors of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And when I was there and I saw these millions of dollars whizzing around back and forth, I realized that this was a world I wanted to belong to. But it wasn't an easy path. In fact, my first trainer said, "Rich, you're the worst trainee I've ever had."
Oh, boy.
Ouch. Oh, ouch.
Right.
But I managed to survive that. And what I realized was that I didn't have a lot of the natural skills for floor trading, but I just kept notes on everything. I kept notes on my beliefs, my attitudes, my mindset. I kept notes on all the things I did right and I did wrong. And eventually that became a trading manual, and I built a trading firm and was able to train other traders. And I think that the struggles in my own life have actually been beneficial, because I've had to really work through them, and not only work through them, but, as your podcast name says, is to work through them consciously.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about your work with clients today and your Conversation with Money book program, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I work with traders, professional money managers, and entrepreneurs, and people who want to improve their relationship with money. Because what drove me here was the biggest surprise I had was that I'd have a money manager come to me, or a trader or an entrepreneur, and we would work through all the behaviors that no longer serve them. We would get through them and would start positive behaviors, and things would start to change, and then bang, they'd hit a ceiling and then drop down. And I noticed that in terms of trading, in terms of business development, there would be this ceiling. And so we started to explore that. And it turned out that many of us have internal conflicts as deep as our identity around our self-worth and deserving, around our beliefs about the world and beliefs about ourselves. And that then was a foundation for behaviors that no longer serve us. And we could work on the behavioral level and just, it's like whack-a-mole.
Right.
Until we got down to what are the deeper issues around your beliefs about yourself and the world. And it was down there that some of the best things happened. So when I looked at those internal conflicts, one of them was around money, wealth, success, and meaning. And out of that then came the book, A Private Conversation with Money. And I take Joe, who's a progressive journalist, and he deals with a character called Money and works through all the things that my clients have had to work through. So Joe's voice is the voice of not only myself, and I have stories about my own limitations and beliefs, but the voice of all my clients who've dealt with a wide range of things. And Joe represents that. And doing the exercises with Joe and working through them with Joe has given a lot of people internal peace around money, meaning, and wealth.
Beautiful. It's just an extraordinary story. And I love the creativity that you brought into writing that and bringing in that narrative approach. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. In terms of conscious living, similar to you, I also have a program on money and our relationship with money, because it's one of the areas in our lives, at least in my experience with clients, that brings an awful lot of stress. And as I look at what's happening in our world today, money is only one of the areas that people are feeling a lot of stress. We've got what's happening with the pandemic, the vaccine, the different people, different views. Should you be vaccinated? Should you not? Should it be mandated? Should it be not? We have the environmental crisis that's happening and people's views on that. We have the culture wars that are kind of flaming up, not only in our country, but around the world.
Yep.
Economic disparity, shrinking middle class. There's so much going on in the world that in some ways, my work of helping people live more consciously, I feel like I'm swimming upstream. So,
well, there's a lot of stuff to be conscious of.
There's a lot to be conscious of, Richard. That's a nice way of saying it, right? And staying conscious of what we're being conscious of. So, we were just bantering around a little bit about how do people wake up and live consciously when we're, I didn't even put this in the mix, but the technological era, the information age, when we have so much information and data coming at us all the time. We carry a computer in our hands, every moment. People sleep with it next to them, take it to the bathroom, checking it at stoplights or driving 80 miles an hour down the road. It's just crazy. People, you could say, have become addicted to the information that we consume, which of course colors how we perceive the world. Yep. So let's just talk about that a little bit. Richard, what are your thoughts?
Oh, there's a couple places. There's so many places we can go with this, right. But let me start with about 5 years ago in my life. I read a book called The Book of Not Knowing by Peter Ralston. And the book is a heavy slog because each step of the way is an invitation to release something that we have built our life on.
Oh, that's heavy.
Well, I was invited to give the keynote speech to the Association of State Treasurers, where all the treasurers from all states come and they meet. And I was just struggling with the presentation, and I was reading the book at the same time. And I thought, what if I let go of everything I believe in, everything I know, and come to them, look them in the eye, and have a conversation? All of a sudden, thousands of ideas literally popped into my head because I was so affixed on delivering stuff and how do I not make them defensive and But what if I just said, I don't know? What a relief that has been to me. Like, I don't have to defend myself anymore. Like this morning, I held my wealth workshop and one of the things wasn't going well. And I said, we've just introduced this. It's going through several iterations. I really appreciate your help with this. And 3 years ago, I would have been defensive because, it's not ready. I didn't get it right. Somebody's not happy. But now it's so easy. If I don't know, then everything is a discovery, and everything is a curiosity. And you talked a bit about the bubbles we're in. One of the things I do is I can be in several different bubbles and be curious and just really enjoy whoever I'm with in that bubble. and then I can invite them to expand it. But if I'm, in a different bubble, boom, boom.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I was sharing with you before we got on the podcast that I just attended a conference where the keynote speaker was Donald Trump. There were 3,500 people in the audience, most of whom were very much behind the it was a business conference for entrepreneurs. So the moderator did a very good job trying to keep him on business topics and not dwelling off into politics. And I would say the majority of the people in the room were kind of behind Trumpian political or fiscal views. And I guess you could consider myself, I'm from Massachusetts. Massachusetts tends toward the liberal, that's the set that I'm in. And so I, at the end of his talk, was really upset and feeling like, wow, this is not my set. This isn't how I think. These people aren't like me. I felt so like a fish out of water. And the gal sitting next to me, we had chatted quite a bit and before the event. And she just sat with me and said, you and I are both products of what we consume.
Oh, boy.
Your views are very much colored by what you read, what you listen to, who you associate with, and so are mine. And fundamentally, we both want the same things.
Oh, that's so important because underlying it, if I look at my friends, I'm in California, so most of my friends are progressive, but I look at my libertarian friends, my conservative friends, and they have good hearts. And it's hard to believe from within a bubble, but you're right. We're all looking for a better world. And depending on how we filter, sort, and our underlying beliefs about ourselves and the world, then we come to very different conclusions. But in my groups, what I do is I look at a behavior that no longer serves us, and for example, it could be I procrastinate. What is the underlying positive intent of that procrastination? Oh, I won't make a mistake. Great. So what you want in your life is not to make a mistake. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So let's look at non-action. What is the result of that? Oh, nothing happens. Okay. So you don't want to make a mistake, and procrastination is making a mistake. Is that right? Right. So what would you like instead? I would like to take the risk of action and finding out how it turns out. So again, taking a belief, looking at the positive intent, and you can do that with your friends. So if you come with somebody who lives in a different bubble, is asked, and what's the positive intent of this belief? What would you want out of it? Say, oh my gosh, I want the same thing. We are in a different information bubble, so how I come to it is different than you come for it. Let's find out how we discover our differences. What a conversation that is then.
That is a great conversation. And, I was struck with the degree to which, everyone in the room, regardless of where they come from in their bubble, we want good families and good health and safety for our children. And, we fundamentally all want the same thing. So what do you think, Richard? I love that you're from California and I'm from Massachusetts, both, fairly liberal places, but California has its more conservative pockets. Massachusetts, not so much, but I suppose a little bit. I think there's 10 Republicans in Massachusetts. No, I'm teasing. But it's fairly liberal here. What's your view of kind of how we got here, of these extraordinary, because I guess how I see it and how it relates to what we're talking about here with conscious living is that the more people get fixed in a view, the less conscious we become. The more you get fixed in a view, the less conscious you become, because your view, whether it's liberal or conservative or libertarian or Christian or whatever your view, it becomes your lens. And your lens is how you perceive everything. And when you've got a fixed mind, a fixed mindset of how you view things, you're not conscious in the present moment. So how did we get here?
Well, because we're humans.
Right.
We want to belong. We don't want to have emotional stress in our lives. One of the things that I work with, and I call it ecology. So if people have a belief system that no longer serves them, and we start to imagine a new belief system that'll serve them better, one of the things I ask is what will happen to your relationships, to your spouse, to your kids, to your community? And oftentimes the answer is, oh my gosh, that won't work very well. We will sacrifice our beliefs and our thinking process if it puts us outside of our community, because if we look back evolutionarily speaking, when back in the clan days, if we were kicked out of our clans and we were shunned, we were dead. So we still have that tremendous, powerful need to belong. So I use that power to create new groups where we celebrate people who are making the changes, and celebrate when they create new behaviors, and celebrate when they have better results in their lives, so that there is a belonging there and an anticipation of the celebration, and gives us the courage to let go of these, what you call these fixed beliefs that no longer serve us.
Nice. I love, love, love that, because that really is, I guess, fundamentally what we're talking about is the beliefs that we have, when we get fixed in those and, and can't see that they no longer serve us. It is those beliefs that seems to be driving, our country and all parts of the world further and further apart. And, I have a commitment to creating a world where love prevails, a world awakened. So when I was sitting there in that 3,500 group of people who think very differently than me, I thought, if I can't be in my commitment to creating a world where love prevails and bring right and bring that energy, that way of being right here, right now, then I need to stop doing what I'm doing, because this is where it happens.
You just gave me an emotional rush. I'm just feeling it and almost teary-eyed that if you can do that and bring that attitude, what you're doing is you're opening the door and giving other people the courage to do it also.
Right, exactly. And what helped, I have to credit the, conservative right-wing Republican woman sitting next to me, who I think very, very differently from, for her attention, her kindness, her compassion, and her ability to say we're just products of what we're consuming, and we fundamentally all want the same thing. And it really helped me shift. And then I came home, and as I was telling people about the experience, I had friends who really were like, you went to a conference where Donald Trump was speaking, and how could you do that? And I was really criticized for it. And I did defend myself by saying I didn't know he was going to be speaking. I didn't. They did not announce that.
No, not me.
I know, right? But I felt that like self-protective, because that's not the bubble that I'm in.
Right. And to love the people in the bubble you're in, and to be able to step outside of that bubble. Oh my gosh, what an invitation to others to do the same. And I think enough people do that, we're going to change the world.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I wanted to say on this episode today, because, I think we get fed these almost, cartoonish memes of what the other side looks like, no matter what side you're on. You get fed a cartoonish meme about what the other side looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And that, impacts our perception of what the other side is like. And then you meet, you get out there and meet people and keep your heart and mind open. And it's very, very different than what the cultural memes that you're being fed really look like. So if we're committed to conscious living, we've got to be able to get beyond right, left, black, white, gay, straight, and really embrace our oneness and our humanity.
Yeah, you say we really have to. May I rephrase that?
Yeah, please.
It's going to feel so good when we are able to get beyond the labels and look and make a heart-to-heart connection. And I got to say, that is being disrupted by wokeism. I belong to a group that is very much heart to heart. It came out of the 70s, most of baby boomers, and the whole deal was heart to heart connections. And they started then dividing us by race, by sexual preference in the groups so we could have these groups. And all of a sudden, this heart to heart thing, I started wondering, well, what do they think of me? Well, what is that group doing? What are they saying? And I felt it was very disruptive to the heart to heart, but we're trying so hard to overcome the divisions that we're actually emphasizing the divisions the way we're doing it. I've had a series of discussions with a number of people who are like anti-racist, and it's been a very people with really good hearts. And we talked about how fighting some things actually maintains them. And so how do we create what you say is that heart to heart? And I just love that. And when I look at what I'm doing with the people and my clients and the workshops, I don't advertise it as such, but that's really what I care about.
Right, right. It's so clear that is what you care about, just that heart-to-heart human connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that whatever that group was back then started creating those divisions, and then those divisions took hold. And it's a fascinating time of, I hope, I like to think, with my belief, that human beings are in a process of awakening. Awakening to our oneness, awakening to our divine essential nature, to our divinity. And I don't know, this current era that we're going through, maybe it's the storm before the next uprising of awakening. But, when I hear people use that phrase, the wokeness, because I'm committed to what I consider to be awakening, how I use that word is awakening to our divinity, awakening to our the fact that you and I and everyone around the world really is intricately connected as one human family. So I hope that we can come full circle, and like back in the 70s when they separated those groups and then maybe came back together in the Heart Center, that we can do that.
Yeah. So if I look at one way to do that is I ask my clients, if, for example, a guy will say, well, she made me so mad. So what that means is that the meaning is connected to the event. That there's an event, the meaning's connected to it, and I react, and they're one. So in my training, I go, there is an event, and you are an agent, and we create agency with awareness, with acceptance, and then we can ask from that area of becoming more agents of our own experience, what do we want? So moving from the event contains the meaning to I create the meaning, then allows us, I think, to step outside of that bubble you were talking about and become agents of our own experience rather than reacting just like from within the bubble that we have and the meaning that we attach to it.
I love
that. Was not very clear. I was struggling with that a bit, but
no, that was that. I love your work around awareness and acceptance, and I think you are spot on. And I do think, again, this is the part of the challenge of our current era, because everybody has a computer in their hand, almost 24/7. Our self-awareness, awareness of our thoughts, our interpretations, our emotions even, feels like it's getting more programmed by the external things that we're being fed.
Yes. What you're expanding on that by saying that the meaning comes with it and we just absorb it.
Right. We just absorb it. Right. I'm told what the meaning is rather than discerning it for myself.
Right. One of the things that I have my clients do is to take their phone and set an alarm, depending on their schedule, whatever, for like 15 minutes. And then we have what we call our set scores, our sensations, emotions, thoughts. So first we do our physical sensation. We do the head to toe search. So like, for example, if I do that right now, I notice my stomach's a little tight. My voice is a little higher than it normally is. My shoulders are a little tense. My emotions. Right now, I'm kind of excited. I'm a little thrilled to be here. And then I look at the quality of my thoughts and and we measure those. So by increasing our awareness, that then allows us then to become the agents of that experience. Because if we're not aware of it and we don't accept it as it is, then it feels like our experience comes from the outside. So I invite all your listeners to set an alarm for every half hour or whatever, and then say, what are my physical sensations? And then there's nothing wrong with anything. Okay, I'm interested. My stomach's a little tight. Okay, that's fine. I'm breathing really kind of shallow, whatever it is, and just accept it. And if you just do that enough, then what happens is, when you accept that and do it enough, then you start to develop some agency above it. So that is an exercise in first awareness, acceptance, and then from that higher level to create agency.
And when you say agency, you mean the capacity to redirect your experience in the moment. Is that how you?
Yeah, to create it. You are the agent of your experience rather than the external events. And we know we've had some, like In Search of Meaning by Viktor Frankl, where he talks about creating in the worst, horrible situations you can possibly imagine for a human being, talks about creating having agency and creating his own meaning.
Last of your one true freedoms is to create your own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I think we've covered some incredible territory here today. I love that practical tool that you just gave that people can use. So maybe when you recognize I'm in a bubble right now, I'm being fed a narrative that maybe is causing me some distress. The more that you can feel your sensations, your emotions, your thoughts, the more you can have agency to create the experience that you want to have. And my invitation, as always, for our listeners and for you, Richard, is that we continue to create a world where love prevails, a world where people are conscious of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and the world that we're creating. So thank you so much, Richard. Can you just tell our listeners how they can find you and perhaps join your wealth group or be coached by you? How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Conversations.money/Jackie.
Oh, nice.
And that will get you the free online course that goes with the book. And the set scores are, those exercises are all included at no charge. So if they want more detail, there's about 10 exercises that you can do to increase your conscious living. And I think if we do that, we will be able to move to that heart-to-heart connection that you and I both love.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate our time and our connection.
Take care.